Hello students, today we are going to learn about a hard drive controller, that is HDC. A hard disk controller is an electrical component within a computer hard disk that enables the processor or CPU to access, read, write, delete and modify data to and from the hard disk. Essentially, an HDC allows the computer or its processor to control the hard disk. A hard disk controller's primary function is to translate the instructions received from the computer into something that can be understood by the hard disk and vice versa. It consists of an expansion board and its related circuitry, which is usually attached directly to the backside of the hard disk. The instructions from a computer flow through the hard disk adapter into the hard disk interface and then onto the HDC, which sends commands to the hard disk for performing the particular operation. Typically, the type and functions of a hard disk controller depend on the type of interface being used by the computer to access the hard disk. For example, an IDE hard disk controller is used for IDE interface-based hard disk. Abbreviated as HDC, the hard disk controller is a circuit that enables a computer to read and write information to a hard drive. The HDC also acts as a bus connecting the hard disk to the rest of computer's components. Today, hard drives have the controller built onto them, usually a circuit board that covers the bottom or on the back portion of the drive. In the laptop hard drive picture, the button of the bottom of the drive has a circuit board which contains a hard disk controller. Now our next topic is floppy disk controller. A floppy disk controller is an electronic chip controller or used as an interface between a computer and a floppy disk drive. Modern computers have this chip embedded in the motherboard, whereas they were a separate component when they were originally introduced. A floppy disk controller or a floppy drive controller is a specially designed chip that controls the reading and writing functionality of a floppy drive. An FDC can support up to 4 floppy disk drives at a time. The controller is connected to the system bus of the CPU and appears as a set of input-output ports to the computer. Short for floppy disk controller, that is FDC, is a controller used to interface the floppy disk drive with a computer. A computer with a floppy drive may encounter a FDC failure error message when a physical hardware failure has occurred with the floppy disk drive. Now, what do you mean by a disk controller? A disk controller is the controller circuit which enables the CPU to communicate with the hard disk, floppy disk or other kind of disk drive. Also, it provides an interface between the disk drive and the bus, connecting it to the rest of the system.